Hey, math people, welcome to the power rule. This is a fan favorite, by the way. So this is lecture 2 of the second chapter-ish of differential calculus, calculus 1. Use the timestamps. I'm going to define the power rule just by making some connections to my last video. But just look through these examples. So yeah, like we're going to start off light, but then get kind of wacky. And then for the second half of the video, just some concepts with the derivative. So use what you need. This video is for you, Jim, or whatever your name is. Let's math. All right, so we noticed a pattern in lecture 1. Pattern being this. If we came up with the equation for the slope of a line, slopes of lines are constant, right? Constant rate of change. So we would say here, okay, the slope is like 3. And then the output for the derivative, f prime, is just 3. It's a constant. Here, the slope goes negative, then it goes positive, right? So you have negative outputs to positive outputs. Okay, it's 1 power lower. So this goes from x squared to x to the first. Now, that's not what the coefficient's going to be, but we're going to unpack that in a second here. Here it goes from positive slope to negative slope to positive slope. That's above, below, above, and then we see the pattern thereafter. The degree is clearly reduced by 1. I'm not going to show the proof for this, but actually maybe towards the end I'll show it. But the derivative, yeah, actually I'll do that. At the end I'll show the proof for this. But for now, we're just going to say, okay, if you have x to the nth power, then the derivative will be, so that's what this d dx means, take the derivative, will be n times x to the n minus 1 power. You're reducing the degree by 1, n minus 1. All right, definition of a derivative sucks. It's time for just power rule, yeah? So let's do some examples. Let's find f prime in each of these cases. So feel free to pause, do what you need. First few are not too bad. These are just polynomials, yeah? So looking at the first one, we're looking at 3x squared. So I don't know, I'll do like 3, 2, 1. Oops. So like, whatever, I'm gonna roll with this. So answers in 3, 2, 1. So like you pause and stuff. I'm gonna do this for all the rounds. You just bring the 3 up front, you subtract 3 minus 1 is 2. You bring the 2 up front, 4 times 2 is 8, and then 2 minus 1 is just 1. You bring the 1 up front, 6 times 1 is just 6, negative 6, right? Negative was already there. And then 1 minus 0 is, or 1 minus 1 is 0. That's it. The slope of a line is a constant. And then likewise, when you have this plus 2, think about what that plus 2 does graphically, right? So if I were to graph, let's just pretend that this is what that quadratic looks like. Adding 2 to that, right? It just scoots it up. So, what would that do to the slope, right? How does this impact the slope at an x value of 2 here, right? Or 0, whatever it may be. It doesn't is the correct interpretation here. Because, like, let's just look at 0. The slope here at 0 is a flat line. It's a slope of 0, right? You can see here that if I were to zoom in quite a bit, it would look like a flat horizontal line, right? That local linearity. It's the same thing for when I added, 6.1. Who cares, right? It's the same exact slope here. So you can think of it that way, or you can think, okay, well, if I were to come up with the slope of a constant, how does the number 2 change with respect to x? Like if I just have 2, this is a nerdy thing, I just have 2 Xbox controllers here and x changes, time changes. How many do I have as time changes? I just always have 2. So it doesn't change. The slope is 0. Looking at the next one, this kind of cascades kind of nicely because this 5 times 1/5 is just 1, and then 5 minus 1 is 4. This 3/4 times 4, the 4's cancel. It's just that 3, so minus 3, and then subtract 1 thereafter. I'm not going to explain each term. You can just kind of see the cascading pattern. The whole idea is to take the power, multiply it by the coefficient, and then just subtract 1. So not too bad of a process. All right, next two, you have to be a little clever in each of these. So re-express these as rational exponents. So x to some power, and then do the calculus. So see if you can handle these. Here are the answers, 3, 2, 1. All right, so you can rewrite square root of x as x to the 1/2. So you bring that 1/2 up front, you subtract 1, you get this expression, which is totally fine. But if you wanted to write this back as a radical, you would bring it back down to the denominator because it's a negative exponent, and you would rewrite that x to the 1/2 as square root of x. So you need to know rational exponents, how to rewrite rational exponents for fractions here. For this one, it's kind of the same story. Just bring that x up top and then just raise that power to -1. So negative exponents get brought down to the denominator, and then so on, so forth if you want to continue that pattern. So we can see here that the -1 gets brought up front, and -1 minus 1 is just -2. So on and so forth with that pattern. If I want to bring it back down to the denominator, I can and make that positive. But in my opinion, and this is where it gets subjective, some teachers are fine with these two answers. Some teachers need you to simplify it to what's on the right. Your miles may vary. All right, so you can handle these two. So pause, and then we're going to go over them in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. All right, so same story. You got to rewrite this as x to the -3rd power, right? And then that 3 is just kind of here for the ride. So with each round, by the way, we're going to get progressively more like, it's just power rule each time, but like harder because of just the way that some of these are written. So, be kind to yourself. Some of these are going to spike up in difficulty quite a bit. So all I did was, okay, for the first one, I made that 3 and then x to the -3rd. Multiply, so that's just using exponent properties. Multiply 3 by -3, you get -9, and then subtract 1, you get -4. This is just like a 1/3 sitting in front. So at that point, it just plays out like a normal power rule. Over here, this is just a coefficient. So this is x to the first, bring it up front. This is just like finding the derivative of 2x. It's just 2. In this case, it's just root 5 times x. So the derivative is root 5. And this is just a constant. So just like how the 2 was a constant here that went away, that turned to 0. It's the same story here. So I was trying to be like tricky in these representations. Think of some of these examples as like training, like mental training. Like my issue with like early math learners, and I don't know if it's issue, it's something that I have to fix, is that sometimes people rely way too heavily on pattern recognition. Like, oh, when it looks like this, I do this. Well, I'm trying to challenge you a little bit with some of these, all right? So if you can handle these, you're in good shape. It's training. So like, whoa, what the heck? This looks crazy. But just go term by term, and then just follow that mantra, that idea of just write x to some power for each of these. Here, don't get too hasty. So you can only do power rule with a single term. So what you need to do is algebra to make this term by term. So like you cannot say, oh, this derivative is 2 times 3x squared. No. So it has to be of each separate term. So you have to do some algebra first. Okay, that's my hint. So I'm going to go over these in 3, 2, 1. Here they are. So I wrote each of these as just x to some power. X to the third, x to the -3rd. Here there's no x, so that's just going to go away. And here there's no x, so that's just going to go away. So both of these terms go away. We once had 4 terms, now we have 2. And I just did power rule for each of those. Over here I just distributed the 2x in. Now it's term by term. And then I get 8x to the third minus 2. Okay, so more algebra stuff. Do algebra first, and then do the power rule for each of these. Okay, 3, 2, 1. So here I did algebra. I did multiplying binomials, FOIL, first, outer, inner, last, or box method, whatever you like. And I just did term by term. Over here I divided each of these by x. I just wrote this as this expression. So if I had like 3 minus 4 all over 2, it would be 3 over 2 minus 4 over 2. And then I just algebraically simplified them, and I did power rule thereafter. So algebra first is sometimes necessary. Not always. Eventually we'll learn rules. So the next lesson is product rule and quotient rule. But sometimes doing algebra first can help you from knowing other formulas. So try out these next two. These next two are just a little deceptive, all right? So be careful with both of these. 3, 2, 1. Let's see if you fell for the traps. What a lot of students do is they bring the 4 up top with this x minus 1. Way too many. This 4 is not raised to the negative first power. If this was all quantity of and then to some power, then you can bring it up top. But this 4 is just 4 just chilling by itself down in the denominator, all raised to the first power. So only that x gets brought up top. So you're looking at this, simplification, algebraic rewrite, whatever, of this expression, and then you just do power rule. And then same story over here. So this root 4 is sitting outside inside the radical, as well as this root x sitting inside of the radical. Hey, wait a minute, root 4 is just 2. And then I can just do normal power rule stuff. So what I did was I split this radical into two separate factors. So both of these steps were algebra. Algebra. You got to know algebra. Did I mention that you have to know algebra? Okay, last little round. This one looks a little funky, and then let's end on a lighter note. 3, 2, 1. Okay, this one looks weird, but pi is just a number. You just bring that pi as a coefficient, and then pi minus 1 is just pi minus 1. E to the third, careful. Do not say that this is 3e squared. We're differentiating with respect to x, and I hope I said that in the instructions. If I didn't say that in the instructions, then like, well, you're finding f prime, which is, you're differentiating with respect to x. E is a constant, yeah? E is a constant, and this is just a number. The E is like roughly 2 point, what is E? Like 2.7 or something like that, right? Yeah, so this is just a constant value, just like how the number 2 is a constant value. So the derivative of just the number 2 is 0. The derivative of 2 cubed, or whatever, this is like 3 cubed, is 0. It's just a constant. Goes away. And then here, this natural log of 2 is also just a constant. It's an ugly constant, but it's a constant. So the derivative of x is just 1, so natural log of 2 times 1. And then ending on hopefully a lighter note, hopefully you got 14. So yeah, some of these were a little tough, okay? Be kind to yourself. All right, so just like some concept stuff, here we got a parabola. If we were to find f prime of 5, so we would find the derivative and then plug in 5. So see if you can do that. And then find the tangent line, find the normal line. See if you can do those at 5. So 5 is like right here. So we're coming up with the tangent line, normal line, and slope at 5. 3, 2, 1. So if we have f of x as x squared minus 6x, we can find f prime by just doing power rule. This is the derivative, the slope function. So if you plug in 5, you get a slope of 4, which kind of makes sense. This is kind of like up 4, right 1. Finding the tangent line, I have the slope. I have the point. The point is right here. The point is 5 comma negative 5. So I just plug that in. And if I want the normal line, so that would be the perpendicular slope. That's opposite reciprocal. The reciprocal of 4 is 1/4. Make it opposite by making it negative. So just spiraling in that tangent line and normal line practice. But the bottom line is there's utility to this. This isn't just some random rule. What this gives you is slope function, and then you can come up with the rate of change of that value, the instantaneous rate of change. Some other things, so find f prime of 2, and then what does it mean to find f prime of x is equal to 2, right? So these are different things. The derivative evaluated at 2, and then when the derivative is 2. These are two different ideas. This is finding the slope at an x value of 2. This one's finding when you have a slope of 2. So, I don't know, re-listen to that like once or twice. Some people need to. What do these expressions mean in written language? Find horizontal tangents, whatever that means. Horizontal slope, we can talk about what that means right now. If I think about a horizontal line, it looks like this. What's the slope of a line that goes like this? Slope is 0, so think about that. And then what could horizontal tangents help us find? And then this one's just for fun. If you remember like anything about like quadratic form stuff, so like vertex form, standard form, axis of symmetry, this is like a fun connection. Just using the quadratic as like a vessel, like a change of x vessel. Okay, anyway, here they are. So if I wanted to find f prime of 2, I just plug in 2 into the derivative. We would say that the slope of f of x at 2, so this shouldn't be negative, at x is equal to 2. So here, I'll just leave my cursor there. Well, what? Hello? There we go. There it is. The slope of f of x at x is equal to 2. Where'd my cursor go? It just goes away. I guess that makes sense. Is negative 2. Does that make sense? Yeah, so if you look at 2 over here, this is a negative slope for sure. So at this x value of 2 right here, my slope is negative 2. If I wanted to do kind of like the opposite, like figure out when the slope is exactly 2, I would set my derivative equal to 2 and then solve for x. So at an x value of 4, my slope is 2. So here is an x value of, here's an x value of 4. Yeah, that looks like it's a slope of 2 up to right 1. So at this value, this x value of 4, my slope is 2. And then my slope at 2 is negative 2. Different ideas. They make, hopefully you're kind of vibing with me. Like, It makes sense that the words kind of sound like muddied up, like I'm kind of saying the same thing but differently, but I'm not. Those are two different ideas. One is the input, one is the output. So there are differences between what I'm saying. Just kind of read through these if you need a little more time with that. Okay, finding the horizontal tangents is just when your slope is 0. So you're setting the slope equal to 0. We're going to do a lot of this later. So that's at an x value of 3. Okay, right? Slope of 0 there. It's just a flat line, right? If I zoom in a lot into that point, you get a horizontal line, local linearity. Slope is 0. Horizontal tangent. I'm just saying mathy words, right? Okay, what could horizontal tangents possibly help you with? Mins and maxes. This is the minimum of my parabola here. All right, and then the last for fun thing is, what's special about the horizontal tangents of a quadratic? I just took the derivative here. I got 2ax plus b, and then I set it equal to 0. I subtracted the b over and divided by 2a, and hey, wait a minute, I remember that negative b over 2a thing. This is the axis of symmetry with quadratics. So if you vaguely remember negative b over 2a from some random October in Algebra 2, 2 years ago at this point probably, or maybe Algebra 1, 3 years ago, whatever it is, negative b over 2a, am I ringing some bells? That's when you have symmetry within a quadratic. That's when you have a minimum or maximum here. So they all connect. Wow, math is meaningful. Yeah, right. All right, so if we want to just find some horizontal tangents, here's some practice for it. And maybe why doesn't a line have a horizontal tangent? Feel free to pause. 3, 2, 1. So yeah, of a quadratic, you're going to have a single horizontal tangent, right? In this case, it's at x is equal to 2. And we can verify this graphically. So if I go ahead and graph negative 3x squared plus 12x and then minus 7, look at that. X value of 2. I did that graphically to verify my algebraic or my calculus work, I guess. You can see that it's kind of not a bad process. I just did power rule, I set it equal to 0, and I did a 2-step. Not too crazy. Same thing with a quadratic being the derivative of a cubic. So if I wanted to graph this one, 1 over 3 x to the third plus 3/2 x to the second, and then minus 10x plus 2. You can see here that an x value of negative 5 and an x value of 2 are my solutions when I set my derivative equal to 0. I took the derivative, I factored, and I solved. Zero product property, people. Hello, have you heard of it? So why doesn't 4x plus 5 have a horizontal tangent? Well, first off, it's just a line, right? When does this line have a highest or lowest, local point? Never, right? The slope is 4, and 4 is never equal to 0. So that's just a fun little, hey, that connects kind of moment, right? All right, and if you're curious about the proof, my guess is you're not. But if you are, here's how it goes. If you have some function that's x to the n, and we want to take the derivative of it, well, okay, derivative is this. And I would just use the limit definition of a derivative. I just have to plug in 0 for h once I get that h to cancel. The next step was an algebraic move, which is just some nice factoring technique that is something, if you're curious about looking it up, it's just like a higher powered version of difference in sum of cubes, just to the nth power. Anyway, then we're looking at, okay, we're approaching 0. Well, okay, the x's cancel here with this factor, and then the h's cancel. So I can just plug in 0 now. And there are n of these expressions. You can see here I have n minus 1, n minus 2. This is going to be n minus 3 with an x to the second, n minus 4 with an x to the third, all the way over to x plus h to the 0th power times x minus x to the n minus 1. If you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there are n of these expressions. If you were to plug in 0 into each of these h's, you get x to the n plus 1. Then you get x to the n minus 2, x to the first. This is x to the n minus 1. This is x to the n minus 1. If you simplify each of these terms, x to the n minus 1, x to the n minus 1, x to the n minus 1, x to the n minus 1. And if there are n of these, right, so you have all these x to the n minus 1s. There are n of these, you just count, 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll get n. That's just how many you have, and that's just what's in front. So n times x to the n minus 1 is our derivative of x to the n. Okay, that's it. Math on. Let's do product and quotient next.